Where is the shiny city on the hill? The one that we've talked about for generations. Where is it, this place where people live in extraordinary harmony and creativity and have this sort of amazing world? Why is it that we have not built it? Discourse, the things that we do every day in our society, is sort of like air, right? We need it, but it seems to be getting increasingly polluted for whatever set of reasons. Where is the hope narrative that we so desperately need to provide leadership for all the various issues that everybody is facing? That narrative that sort of reflects the excitement in young people's eyes when you meet them today, if you're me anyway. This is why we're all here. You know, it's easy to blame technology for a lot of these things, but I was sort of studying this, and we have to change a little bit too. We have to look past our own immediate surroundings and put ourselves in other people's shoes. An interesting statistic, 1 in 3 Americans declines to discuss politics except in private. I guess because they don't want to be criticized, or maybe they think they're wrong. Fewer than 1 in 4 ever talk with someone who they disagree. Now that's a problem. So this is not a road to a healthy democracy. And so why we do this event, as Philip so ably said, is because we are absolutely committed to a diversity of ideas and transparency of action. I have not been able to come up with an alternative model for how to organize society except that. And we're not going to make progress unless we embrace these. And if you look on an economic basis, what is the greatest narrative of the last 20 or 30 years? Well, you know, it's the iPhone or the Android phone or, you know, whatever. No, it's that 500 million people were in the middle class in the 1980s, and we're on our way in a decade to have 4 billion, right? That's the greatest narrative. That's the one that matters, enabled by technology in all the ways that you all know. So my goal, and what I want to talk about for just a minute, is that the power to make society better does lie in technological progress, that we control. And I'm fans of a guy who wrote, his name is John Perry Barlow, who wrote A Declaration of Independence of Cyberspace. And this is 20 years ago, and he said that the internet promised a world where anyone anywhere can express his or her beliefs, no matter how singular, without fear of being coerced into silence or conformity. Well, boy, did that happen, right? Boy, did it happen, and it happened really well. So what happened was, we realized this promise. What happened was, everyone got a mobile phone, and they got unhappy, they got motivated, they got empowered, and things changed. That is today's narrative, right? It's not a bad narrative, but that's what happened, right? Everybody got connected, and boom, all of a sudden, they became concerned about oppression of themselves, activities of their governments, lack of freedom, or self-interest. And in some cases, it was used very badly. So being granted access to ideas that you didn't know before is a tremendous drug, right? And I've traveled around the world visiting with people who all of a sudden knew that something was happening that they had never heard before. And we take this for granted in the West. The majority of people don't live in the first world. They live in the developing world. And for them, this is an extraordinary and in many ways jarring shift. But the result, of course, is that children have gotten educations that they would never have gotten otherwise. Entrepreneurs have started businesses, which of course is the great business narrative for the next decade. And of course, the internet has made us closer, generated these friendships and so forth. And it's been heralded as a driver of democracy. And you all know the stories, Arab Spring, the Umbrella Revolution in Hong Kong, and the Black Lives Matter protests here in the US. And of course, then everyone complains, okay? Well, look at all these bad things. Well, I'd still take the good things along with the bad things, though I'd prefer fewer of the bad things. Let me remind you that we invented, as humans, the first thing we invented was fire, and then shortly after that, we invented arson, okay? And no one's proposing the elimination of fire. We're just trying to control the arson, thank goodness. And thank goodness that's what that one is thank goodness, largely under control. So using that metaphor, in Myanmar, where I was, connectivity fans the flame of violence against the Rohingya, which is horrific, unnecessary. In Russia, there are these teams of online trolls that systematically go and try to shut down the voices of democracy. And by the way, we just announced today that we've developed a tool using modern neural networks, so-called AI technology, that can automatically detect the systematic attacks by trolls and begin to sort of both alter the attack vector into those, but also alert authorities and owners of expression and things like this. This is a serious breakthrough, literally announced today, with more to come. So in the Middle East, of course, everybody knows that, and you know the narrative, social media is being used to recruit new members, obviously horrific. And somehow these networks are beginning to find their way to disaffected young people who don't see hope. They don't see this message, or they've been radicalized by evil adults, right? And we need to address that with tools, technology, human activities, and so forth. But what's happening is that a small, tiny little subset is using the wonderful things that all of us invented over the years to delude some people to believe that living a life fueled by hatred and violence is actually cool, which we all know it's not. So I would say that we as a community, we as a society, we as companies, all the people here have to take an active role in shaping this technology with the knowledge that I've now talked about. These are all human conditions. These are all problems that we're going to address. And if I use my fire and arson analogy, we figured out how to solve that problem with laws and police and jails and so forth and so on. So the point is, the technology here can be shaped by us. It shapes us a little bit, but it's really shaped by human values. And when I go back to the civil rights movement in America in the 1960s, what happened was the lives of minorities, which were pretty bad when I was a boy, changed very radically in a very short time for the much better because of concerted activism, inviting in an open conversation, showing the terrible mistreatment of these folks. Now, this was before, right? This was the civil rights marches and so forth. This was before you could do the same thing in cyberspace much more efficiently. And so one of the things to think about is, if there's these issues that I'm describing now, can you repeat the civil rights movement but do it more efficiently at scale globally on the internet? Can the right-thinking people who care about equality and so forth, can they build this? So I claim that there is an emerging democratic consensus: equality of women, inclusion, not exclusion, the infinite knowledge of and empowerment of people, right, to do great things, right, with normative behavior on the edges for bad behavior. We can advertise this. We can shape it. We can transmit it globally. We have the tools. We have just not done so. We have not taken it as our objective to make what I believe are the right human values, one which I know everybody in this room agrees to. We've not done it globally. We've not taken the time to think it through, to spread it. And that's what we're trying to do while we're here. So right now, it's still too easy for the internet to allow like-minded people to connect to each other and just become these little sort of cul-de-sacs and get stuck and fundamentally wrong. And this sort of tribalism, which is what I'm going to call it, masks the need for common values and strong leadership. Societies are built one value at a time, right? And the winds of democracy in the countries that most of us are coming from are there because people fought over the principles of freedom of expression, freedom of movement, voting, all those kinds of things, equality. Last week, I visited with the Prime Minister of Canada, who is an extraordinary young individual, and we were talking about multiculturalism, which they've embraced. And I asked him directly, why is Canada committed to this? And he sort of thought for a moment. He said, perhaps it's because the country is pretty remote and we've learned that we have to depend on each other. Extraordinary article, very interesting. So to me, the fact that the internet is painting these interactions, right, gives us an opportunity. And I will tell you, having met with most of the leaders these days, it's harder than ever to be a great leader. But it wasn't that easy either in World War II, right? Or in the 60s. Great leadership is required through this, and we should expect that from our elected leaders in every country, not just here. So here, right, leadership from us, leadership from our political leaders, leadership of the political discourse should lead to the things we're going to talk about. Building new AI systems that enable the relief from drudgery work, enormous achievements coming from there. Using CRISPR and other extraordinary technologies in biology to solve many human diseases and things which have bedeviled us since we've been around as humans. So we have an opportunity right in front of us, right now, right, to build this shiny city on the hill, right, with our values, and I hope with justice, equality, and especially with hope. Thank you very much.